Fans of the Faceoff, welcome back. A couple weeks away, but we have returned. Julian, long time no see. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, man. It's been quite some time since I've seen your face, man. I started missing you a little bit, man.
Dude, once people start getting jobs after they graduated, these things get harder and harder to do. We gotta try and get back to our weekly schedule. But it's been tough. Been working hard at MLB Network, but it is good to see you.
Yeah, man. Just doing the same thing over at McGill as well, man. Doing some broadcasting with them over the last few weeks, and I hope to continue to do a little more there. Yeah, it's been taking up some time as well. So, glad we were able to find time in our busy schedules, to talk sports, for an hour, 2 hours, however long our podcasts go now.
You're broadcasting, man. I'm jealous. We got to start doing a little more curtain calls.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta find. I'm doing a soccer game next week, so stay tuned for that, and let's see if I can call a Golasso or two or four.
Okay, so since Julian and I have been out a couple weeks, unfortunately, we did not get to do our college football nor our NFL preview.
We missed out on a lot.
Welcome to the grand, slightly delayed football, both collegiate and professional preview show. Edition, working title.
Yes.
But nonetheless, Julian and I are going to talk some football, and it is about time. I work at MLB Network, Julian. I love baseball, but the dog days of summer were affecting the show, and now we are in the thick of it, baby. Football is back.
Yeah, football is back, and, every year, whether it's college football especially because they find a way to captivate attention all the time, but especially with the NFL, it doesn't matter whether, a player who should still be in the league and protesting social causes, not on the sideline, and you want to get upset. For some weird reason, you still find yourself drawn to these games. And the NFL, no matter what is going on in this situation, it's the greatest reality TV show out there now. For some reason you just have to watch it. It's something that has to be paid attention to, and better late than never with these football previews. Even though I know week 1 happened and we missed the instant reaction of New England losing their first game of the year already, and people crying and whining about it. Oh no, they lost to Kansas City. Like, give me a break. Like, I think the last time they lost their first game of the year, didn't they win the Super Bowl? I mean, there's nothing to worry about with the New England Patriots. But anyway, I digress. The NFL, it's back. We're going to be paying attention to it for another 17 weeks and beyond, of course.
Yeah, so here's the deal. We're going to be making some predictions, winners of the division, championship games, and, of course, the Super Bowl. But I want you, Julian, as I will too, to be completely honest. Your picks before any week 1 impressions, because I know things for me personally have changed, but I'm going to go ahead and give my honest answers for what I had before the season began, because that's how it's supposed to go.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do that.
That's fair.
I'm going to hold you to that, all right? We're going to go back at the end of the season in the Super Bowl when my predictions come true, and we're going to run the tape.
All right, that's fine. That's fine. And when my predictions come true as well, better than yours. I will gloat in your face.
All right. Without further ado, what better place to start, Julian, than the AFC North? I want to know, who do you have winning this division and why? And do you have any wild cards?
Personally, and there was no change about this after week 1. The Pittsburgh Steelers, in my mind, are the best team in the AFC North. Thanks to that three-headed attack of I don't understand Le'Veon Bell was holding out his contractual issues and Ben Roethlisberger and Tony Brown. I still think they're the best side in that division. I think they're taking a step back. Maybe this is finally the year. Maybe I'm being hopeful in this, but maybe this is the year the Bengals are just not good enough. And Marvin Lewis finally goes. And being a little more hopeful here, maybe the Cleveland Browns, while missing the playoffs, show a bit of hope. Deshaun Kaiser looked okay in preseason. So yeah, I think the Steelers are probably the best. They're going to win that division. Do I have a wild card from there? I think the Bengals are going to be that team. If anything, they had a rough start to week one, but going into the year, being truthful, I have the Bengals as a walkout.
The Bengals look pretty bad in week one. I know we're being honest, but man, shut out, complete goose egg at home to a division rival in the Baltimore Ravens, who I guess didn't look exciting, but you can't argue with the results, a 20-0 win. I only have one playoff team, and we both are agreeing on the division winner. That is the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, their defense is getting better. It's probably slightly above average by now. And, back in the day when Roethlisberger took over, it was a dominant defense, and he did just enough on offense. And then they just did a complete 180 over time, and that offense is as star-studded as any team in the league right now. When you take a look at Roethlisberger, Le'Veon Bell, arguably the best running back, especially now that David Johnson is sidelined, and Antonio Brown. I mean, PPR dream come true, Antonio Brown. The guy gets it done. No one's touching the Steelers in that division. I know week one they looked a little shaky. It wasn't the most convincing win against the lowly Browns, but they'll be just fine. They got the W. They'll figure it out. They'll be in the thick of it in the AFC till the very end, in my opinion.
And you have to give credit to the Cleveland Browns. Honestly, the fact that they didn't get trampled in their first game against the Steelers. I guess this is where the Cleveland Browns are at now. You have to take that as a moral victory, I guess. The fact that they played them tough. The Browns are by no means are going to be this wild card team that is going to get in at the last second in the playoffs. But if the Browns show some hope with these quarterback situation that they have now, there might be some hope in Cleveland. There's still going to be a team to watch in that division, no matter what happens.
Yeah, I'm guessing Hugh Jackson would say there are no moral victories in the NFL, but I agree that if there were ever one, that would probably be up there.
We didn't get killed.
Let's move on down south now, staying in the AFC. This is arguably the worst division in football. I'd honestly be picking none of these teams if given that choice, but we got to pick at least one. I don't know, you might have two. I'll go first this time. Last time. And I'll be completely on with you. Sunday did not go well for my initial pick, the Houston Texans. Not because I have eternal faith in the Texans, but rather I just have not any faith in any of the other teams. I know Tennessee is going to be the trendy pick throughout the media, but I honestly feel that that's mostly based on just the media liking a young Marcus Mariota. He's more exciting than the boring old Texans, and frankly, the media gets sick of repetition. The Texans have won the past 2 years at 9-7, and they're not really flashy or exciting, and I understand that. So that's why I could see why Tennessee is a more attractive pick, but I still just don't think they're ready yet. I think they're a Mariota injury away from being a 4-win team. They have some young, intriguing talent, but it's not quite there yet. They lost week one at home to a very good Oakland team, but the point still stands. I don't think they're quite there to compete with the rest in the AFC. Granted, they don't have to pull off winning the division, and I like their chances infinitely more than I did going into week one after the Texans were just flat out embarrassed. But the Texans have more veterans, and they've won the division the past 2 years. They're built to go 9-7, which is exactly what it takes to win this awful division. And if they right the ship tomorrow night in Cincinnati, I still like the Texans to ultimately come out on top of the division. But I'll be holding my breath tomorrow night, that's for sure. What about you? What's your take on this division?
All right, so you pretty much have me nailed down with the description of everyone who's picking the Tennessee Titans. They like Marcus Mariota. He's this more exciting quarterback. But let's add on to the idea of him being the more exciting quarterback. Think of all the quarterbacks in that division right now. Marcus Mariota, Andrew Luck's going to be on the shelf for a bit too long until he could probably right the ship. Not to mention that the Colts are a mess right now. So pretty much you're looking at Scott Tolzien or Jacoby Brissett playing it out. Deshaun Watson still needs to figure a few things out. And you have the interception machine that is Blake Bortles. Marcus Mariota could end up not only being the best quarterback in that division because of his excitability, but just perhaps on stats and playing all those games. So, yeah, I have all the faith in the Tennessee Titans coming out on top in their division. They have the Jags coming up really soon, this coming Sunday. I think that's a winnable game. And they may get some trickier games going down the stretch with guys like Seattle they're going to be at home against Seattle. That might actually be an easier one. But I can see them winning games against the Texans. I can see them winning games against the Dolphins, the Colts. They have the Browns and the Ravens and the Bengals in their schedule as well. There's some winnable games in their schedule that can make them at least 9-7. There's no reason in my mind why the Titans cannot. There's no reason in my mind why the Titans can't win this division. I like Marcus. I think he's going to make the weapons he has at his disposal work. And I read this feature off The Ringer about him. It seems like the whole team is just buying into Marcus Mariota, and that's going to bring them a long way. I think they are ready to be a playoff team this year. I don't think they're ready to be that team that could, step to round 2, round 3. But I think the Titans are ready to be that playoff team this year. And I think that the Texans are the closest squad in that division, but I don't think they're good enough to throttle them from that seat. And I think they're the only. I think the Titans are the only playoff team I have out of the AFC South.
Yeah, it's really it's slim pickings. You have to pick one. It's the worst of 4 evils essentially. And you say Mariota is the best quarterback in the division. That's a no-brainer without a doubt. The problem is that's not really saying much. His competition is Blake Bortles, who got benched in the preseason for Chad Henne. It was initially Tom Savage, who got benched 1/2 into his first season as starting quarterback for the Houston Texans for the rookie Deshaun Watson, who's already banged up going into a short week against the worst offensive line arguably since the team has existed. And then you have Scott Tolzien, who is Exhibit A in the why the hell does Colin Kaepernick not have a job category. 2 pick sixes in week 1, including his first pass of the season. So, yeah, Mariota is the best quarterback, and that gives the Titans a very, very good chance. They have to feel pretty good about that going into the season that, wow, we have the only competent guy under center going into this year. That's huge. And I would not at all be surprised if the Titans do, in fact, win the division. I just felt like they were getting a lot of favoritism from the media simply because they do not like repetition. LeBron James does not win MVP every year. Greg Popovich doesn't win Coach of the Year every year, and I know it's different sports, but LeBron is the best basketball player, and Popovich is the best coach, but the media likes to mix it up.
That's a very good point, and we're gonna have to bring that up again when we talk about college football. But you are absolutely right. The media is not a big fan of repeating, award winners every year, basically because it's so rare in certain instances for a repeat winner in certain instances when you're talking about individual awards. Sometimes you're talking about division winners and stuff like that, because more often than not, you see so much turnover with how teams play and the players that come in and out. But in some cases, like the New England Patriots, and we'll get to them later, sometimes their competition just isn't good enough. You're forced to just have to pick the same team over and over. But we'll get to our default AFC East pick later in the preview.
You stole my segue. So you're taking the Titans. I'm taking the Texans in the AFC South. Moving on to the East, is it really even a discussion? Even after a disastrous week 1, worst case scenario week 1, are you at all concerned about the Patriots holding down the AFC East for?
No, I'm not concerned at all. And no one in New England should be concerned. No one in the NFL should be concerned. Holla at me when the New England Patriots are officially out of it because they're 0-7. Like, that's going to happen. The New England Patriots, yes, the first game of the year, a complete surprise that they lose at home against Kansas City because Alex Smith decided all of a sudden, you know what, I'm going to throw the football downfield and make all these 75-plus yard passes for touchdowns. That was a complete shock. But if you look at the rest of the AFC East, if you look at how the Patriots have been the Patriots over the last few years, they'll find a way to win these games and make it into the playoffs. Julian Edelman going down for a season-ending injury. If this is any other team, we're thinking, oh wow, there goes their big threat on offense. There goes their big wide receiver. The New England Patriots, we are so used to a player getting injured and then someone coming out of nowhere and stepping up and being this great big hope for them. I mean, Chris Hogan in the playoffs last year against Pittsburgh, this guy spent like 4 years of his college life at Monmouth playing lacrosse. And then he plays football for a year, and now he ends up being this big-time player for them. Danny Amendola was a scrap player up in St. Louis back when the Rams had a team in St. Louis, ends up going to New England, big-time player. And on top of all that, yes, Julian Edelman is hurt, but the New England Patriots still have Brandon Cooks. And I still can't understand for the life of me how the New England Patriots, were just able to get their best deep threat since Randy Moss and a guy like Brandon Cooks. I know maybe he didn't necessarily electrify the crowd in his first game, but that's been my whole thinking about the Patriots this entire offseason. Brady should have no problems using Cooks to his full advantage. There's no issue to be had here with the New England Patriots. If they find a way to mess this all up, then we can, in week 6 or week 7, come together and be like, wow, they really mashed this up for themselves. But I really don't see it with the New England Patriots. It takes a lot to be worse than the Buffalo Bills right now, the New York Jets, oh Lord, even Miami.
Are the Jets still in the NFL? Is that a thing?
Last I checked, I think Alabama's trying to switch places with them. So we'll see.
Good for them.
We'll see. Yeah, there's no wildcard teams there either. I don't know if that was implied or not, but the New England Patriots have this in the bag.
Look, the Dolphins made the playoffs last year, so I think they don't really belong necessarily in that category with the Bills, and the Jets are probably in their own category, to be completely honest with you, in the hunt for that #1 pick. But you're right. You're absolutely right. No one's going to challenge the Patriots. I know they did not look good in week 1 against Kansas City Chiefs. First of all, give the Chiefs a ton of credit. They played a damn near perfect football game. And there are a lot of concerns for New England, especially on the defensive side of the ball, because Brady can't take the field or the defense. That front 7 is pretty weak, and they re-signed Hightower. He's probably the only standout guy in that front 7.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a scary moment when he was grabbing his leg down on the field for a while, so that'll be something to keep an eye on. Alex Smith had his way with them. I mean, Alex Smith. They got a tougher matchup in terms of quarterback this week. They're playing Drew Brees, Brandon Cook's former team. I agree with you. That was a really good snag. They really improved a team that won the Super Bowl, at least offensively. It was really quite marvelous. They were definitely one of the top teams in the offseason, at least on the offense. Now we've seen the defense. But if we'd done this preview initially before the season, I wouldn't have been saying any of this, and I would say Patriots are clear AFC East favorites and probably AFC favorites. And I still 99% think that way.
Yeah, there's nothing that's going to change my mind with that. Maybe, that New Orleans game will be a little different for New England. I think they'll find a way to get it going against Drew Brees, and we'll talk about them later, but what a week 1 for them as well. They have some issues they need to address. But no concerns with the New England Patriots, none at all whatsoever, unless, and you can knock on wood, Patriots fans, if Tom Brady gets hurt. If Tom Brady gets hurt, then New England really has some issues. But then, hey, Jimmy Garoppolo, step on right up. Give yourself a chance for teams in the NFL to look at you and possibly trade for you. But yeah, no problems with the Patriots.
All right, we both got the Pats. Do you have anyone else coming out of the East?
Is that a trick question?
It is not a trick question.
No. The Dolphins, in my mind, I really don't think they're going to be that second AFC team. As a wildcard
bandwagon?
Nope, I'm not hopping on the Jay Cutler bandwagon. The Bills, they're not good enough. The Jets, please don't go 1-15, please. You get the number 1 overall pick, but don't go get 3 wins. If we get 3 wins this year, I'll be happy because that's fine. I don't want 2-1 or 0-16. I don't want to share that mark of futility with the Detroit Lions. Give me 3 wins. That's all I want. 3 wins.
I actually have a bet on the Jets under 2.5 wins on the season. So
Lord.
And week in and week out, I like my chances, to be completely honest with you. So you have the Steelers in the North plus the Bengals. Is that correct?
Yes.
You have the Titans in the South. I have the Texans. And then we both have the Patriots in the East. So you still have a Western Division winner plus another wild card. I'm actually missing 2 wild cards right now, but I'm going to let you go first.
So going over to the AFC West, the team that I have coming out of there, they won their Week 1 matchup. I like the Oakland Raiders. I love how this team has gone from obscurity and being a laughable team to a team that's culture has shifted, and they are now going to be looked at as one of the top teams in the AFC, not only for this season, but going forward, even when they move over to Las Vegas. I like Derek Carr. I like their defense. I know there's still going to be, there may be some issues there with how their defense may play out, and they may not necessarily be that team that gets to the AFC Championship game, but I really like them in the AFC West coming out as a division leader. And as my second wildcard team, I think the Kansas City Chiefs, who had a pretty decent year last year, all the games they lost last year were very close. I think they lost within like 3 points on some of them. And Alex Smith, I mean, if Week 1, I think Alex Smith this year is going to play pretty well. For some reason, the drafting Pat Mahomes, if Game 1 is any indication, has lit some kind of fire inside of him. You know, when you're comfortable in your position and you realize, hey, you know what, the place you work for might bring someone else to take over your job or is working with you, you kind of have to check yourself and realize, hey, you know what, I got to step my game up here and solidify my spot. I think Alex Smith is realizing that, and he's saying, hey, yo, guys, I'm the man here. I can play. I'm not letting what happened to me in San Francisco, where I lose my job halfway through the year, to Colin Kaepernick, happen to me again. And I think we're going to get some inspired play from Alex Smith, and it may be enough to get them a wild card spot. So I have the Raiders and the Chiefs coming out of the AFC West.
I like the Chiefs as well. I actually have them winning the division. Turns out, look pretty good. Are thumping the defending champs on their home field. But I don't think it's because of Alex Smith. I think you take a look at the other side of football. Eric Berry, huge loss, and you feel so bad for that guy. Battled back from cancer. Really just a phenomenal safety. But still, they got some bad boys on that team. Justin Houston in the second half, that was
phenomenal.
I mean, if you enjoy watching NFL defense played the right way, then you were having a good time watching Justin Houston on opening night. That guy was getting it done. Kansas City, I know Andy Reid gets a bad rap sometimes, but the fact of the matter is his team is always relevant. His teams are always relevant, and I think now that he's been there and brought in his culture for a few years now, all signs are pointing to Kansas City being the best they've been in his tenure, and it showed in Week 1. So I'm taking the Chiefs to win that division. I'm also taking Oakland to make the playoffs as one of the wild cards. Yes, they gave the Patriots somewhat of a run for their money for that number 1 seed last year until Derek Carr got hurt. I don't think they're going to do that again. I think they were the fun surprise team that people didn't really see coming, that were playing without any pressure. Jack Del Rio, Blackjack, let's go for 2. Let's go for the win. They won a lot of close games. Now people know they're here. They're going to plan a lot more for guys like Khalil Mack. So I don't think they're going to be able to surprise as many people, but they're still a very good football team. They belong in the playoffs. I think they get it done. And lastly, this is my surprise team, the San Diego no longer Los Angeles Chargers.
Wow.
Getting into the playoffs.
Wow.
Do you realize how terrible they were in the fourth quarter last year? They are a very good football team on both sides of the ball. Top 10, I think, in both, if I'm not mistaken. Missed out on the playoffs just because they could not get things going in the fourth quarter. But maybe this change of scenery, Bill Rivers, that clock is ticking. Maybe he realizes that. He's got a new opportunity in a new city. I think they get it done. I think they snag that second wild card. I think they're definitely talented enough. If they can stay healthy. Keenan Allen always goes out on him every year. They had no receivers last year. Rivers still did okay. Now he has more help back on his team. I think the LA Chargers can get in the playoffs this year, but I could be proven horrendously wrong. We'll have to see. A tough loss in week 1 to a team they'll be competing for a wild card in Denver. You can never count out that defense. Won the Super Bowl just a couple of seasons ago. Tough loss on a missed field goal, but they'll be in the thick of it. That's my bold prediction in the AFC.
It's funny enough you mentioned about them being bad in the fourth quarter. They actually, made a game of it in the fourth quarter, and you mentioned those receiving options they had. I mean, Keenan Allen is healthy. Travis Benjamin is there. Look out for Tyrell Williams as well. They have options. Phil Rivers has, some talent at his disposal, and had it not been for, young Hoku getting that freeze near the end, the Chargers may very well have tied that game. They were this close to sending this game to overtime, a heartbreaking way to lose. That is a surprise pick. I didn't think the Chargers were going to be good enough to make the playoffs this year, but wow, that's some stones.
So we each have our 6. Now I need your top 2. Who is going to meet, not win, we'll get to that later, but who is going to meet up in the AFC Championship game, and then we'll move on to the NFC.
Steelers, Patriots.
Steelers, Patriots, a repeat of last year?
Yes. I think they're clearly still the best teams in the AFC. Setback aside for New England, I still think they're going to find themselves in a position where they get back to that championship game. I think the Steelers are like in the same boat as well. Those are the 2 top teams in that conference, and I don't think Tennessee. I don't think Oakland's there yet. Even Kansas City, the lower class teams in the AFC, they're not good enough in my mind to make a surprise out of it and possibly knock off one of these 2 squads. I think we're getting a repeat. Who wins between those 2 teams? Interesting. I'll get to that later.
We'll get there. I would have said exactly the same thing a week ago from today. But how can you not give the Chiefs some credit, man?
You told me to be honest from the get, man. I mean, of course, now you have to give the Chiefs some respect. But yes,
the championship hangover was real. I get that. I don't think the Chiefs go in there 9 times out of 10 and stomp on the Patriots. No chance. And also, I think 5 is a much rounder number. Brady wanted 5. It just has a better ring to it than, he really wants that 6th.
Blitz for 6th. That's what the hashtag is now.
The drive for 5 is a lot sexier. But credit, man. That being said, you're right. We're being honest. I'm sticking to my original pick of Steelers and the Patriots, but the Chiefs are going to be a tough out, and I think it'll boil down to who gets home field advantage in the second round games. But we'll have to see. Let's move on to the NFC, other side of the bracket here, and we'll do the same order. So starting with the North, Julian, I need your division winner and any potential wild cards.
The Green Bay Packers are going to win the NFC North. Aaron Rodgers is there. He's a bad man. We all know about that. I think the Vikings may be close. The Lions are also there. I think the Bears are probably going to be, that fallback on the 4th squad in that team. Sorry, in that division. They're going to be 4th. I really don't see Minnesota or Detroit kind of topping over Green Bay. That's a team that I think could go far in the playoffs this year in, year out. They remain competitive. I really don't see anyone else in the North kind of topping them. I have Green Bay as my winner.
Yeah. It's a quarterback-driven league. They have the man who's probably the best at it ever, at least fundamentally and physically. Aaron Rodgers is a bad man, as they like to say. I'm all in on the Pack. They're going to win that division. I think they're going to win it easily. I know last year some struggles early on, but they look very good in week 1 and have been playing some pretty darn good football since, week 7 or 8 of last year. Pack are ready, and they are in a Super Bowl or bust mode. I don't even think making the playoffs is a question out there up in Green Bay. I also like the second coming, I should say, of the Purple People Eaters. I like the Vikings, Julian. That's too good of a defense not to be in the playoffs. I know last year They brought in Bradford when Bridgewater went down with that devastating injury, and I don't think it was fair. A, I don't think Bradford's that good. B, they did this right before the season started. He didn't even start week 1, so it's not really fair that he had to learn everything on the fly. Now he has a full year under his belt, and he looked damn good. I know it was against the Saints' awful secondary.
Mm-hmm.
Bradford looked ready to roll in week 1, and with that defense, he doesn't even need to play at an elite level by any means. I think the Vikings get in. They're too good defensively and special teams to not at least be in the hunt. I think they do snag a wild card spot. I have the Vikings getting in the playoffs on my end.
I think if we had after watching them play against the Saints this week, I have a feeling that the Vikings could eventually be that wild card team as well. But obviously, staying to the OG predictions I would have made before the season, I have to say, the Vikings probably, that's one of those teams I look at, maybe I should give them a wild card team. They're going to be up front and say, hey, you know what? They're not going to be my wild card team. But after that week 1 matchup and seeing guys like Stephon fall out 2 touchdowns, Dalvin Cook looked all right as well. That team could very well be that one of those wild card spots. I have a surprise pick for one of my 2 wild card teams. Actually, I think both of them are probably surprising.
All right. So, are you taking the Vikings or not?
No. In being truthful to what I would have had before, I did not have the Vikings or the Vikings.
Fair. I just wanted to clarify. All right. So you have the Packers. I have Packers and Vikings. Let's move down south. What do you think of that division?
The NFC South, very tough to predict in my view, mostly because history shows me that the loser of the Super Bowl the year after, they have some kind of weird hangover where they're not nearly the same team as they were the year earlier. Sometimes they miss the playoffs or they get out in the first round. And in the case of the Atlanta Falcons, that mastermind at offense, but depending on who you talk to in Atlanta, I don't know if they'll use the word mastermind with Kyle Shanahan. He's not there. So that offense is going to be a lot different. Carolina, they won their week 1 matchup, but they have an opportunity to have a rebound year after their Super Bowl appearance hangover. The Saints, I don't see them getting out of that division. As a toss-up here, I think the Falcons may end up just being a team that's good enough to win that division. But my surprise pick, it's a big surprise. Because just like we're giving Marcus Mariota a lot of love in the AFC.
I know where you're going with this.
I want to give that same love to Jameis Winston.
Drew Brees. Oh, Jameis Winston.
Jameis Winston. No, I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers can sneak in and be one of those 2 wildcard teams. I think Jameis Winston, this is the year he takes that step forward, and he ends up being – I think his stats are trending upward anyway, but I think this is the year he takes that step forward, and he just gets Tampa Bay into the postseason. I think Carolina will be tricky enough that Tampa Bay could jump over them, and that week 1 game against Minnesota is enough for me to say that New Orleans probably isn't going to make it to the playoffs this year. And, their offense is just okay. They're lacking a deep threat, and their defense is still atrocious. No, I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have that right combo on offense and defense, and I think Jameis Winston is going to be enough for them to be a wild card team. Atlanta and Tampa are my 2 teams out of the NFC South.
I kind of like the stubborn guy. Get off my lawn this week. I probably shouldn't have worn my glasses today. I'm not, just like I'm not 100% buying Mariota and the Titans, I'm not 100% buying the Buccaneers. Sure, they're way better off than they were a couple of seasons ago. I'll give you that. Really? But unlike the luxury of the Titans playing in the AFC South, they're playing in a much better division. And granted, the Falcons were right there, and they lost it, and that's going to sting. They did not look good against Chicago by any means, who we think could be easily a bottom 5 team in the NFL. And they also lost Kyle Shanahan, which I think is going to hurt in the long run. I think that's going to hurt guys like Devontae Freeman, especially out of the backfield, because Shanahan was just so clever. He was once the Texans coordinator. I watched him every week. The guy gets NFL offenses. That being said, though, they're too good not to win this division, Julian. Got Matt Ryan coming off an MVP season. They have guys like Vic Beasley on the defense, young guys on that front seven. And they were right there. They have to get back in the playoffs. They have
Julio Jones. Don't forget about him, too.
Yes. The Falcons need to get back to the playoffs because they have some unfinished business to attend to. So I refuse to believe that they won't make it back, even if that's dumb and not really an expert analysis, sabermetric opinion. I truly feel like the Atlanta Falcons don't have a choice. They have to get back in the playoffs because that was painful. I don't even like the Falcons, and that was just painful. I have the Falcons getting back. There are some other intriguing options. I wanted to pick the Bucs, but I couldn't. I just don't trust them quite enough yet. Carolina was dominant 2 years ago, and now I feel like they're almost underrated. No one's giving them any credit, but I still don't feel like they have enough. The thing about their defense was just the best in the NFL a couple years ago. They lost Josh Norman. Their secondary is in shambles. It's in shambles. That was their Achilles heel last year, and they didn't really do a whole lot to fix that. I know they have that great linebacking core with Kuechly and Davis, but they're just – God, the secondary is going to hurt them, and I think they fall short. But I am taking the Falcons. The Saints, you want to believe that Drew Brees has one last run in him, but their defense is just god-awful. We saw in week one. Sam Bradford tore them apart. Highest-scoring quarterback, I think, besides Alex Smith in week one in fantasy. I mean, that can't happen. That can't happen. So the Saints are going to be hindered far too much by that defense to even really be in the discussion. I think, honestly, too bad for no doubt Hall of Famer Drew Brees. And also Adrian Peterson, I should add.
That guy, I mean, one thing I've kept seeing over the last few days is his epic stare down with Sean Payton. And I know at first he said he wanted to be confidential with what he said to Sean Payton, but then he eventually tweeted it out. But I think we all knew then and there that man wanted the team to run the ball and use him to run the ball. 6 carries for 18 yards for Adrian Peterson. That is ridiculous. But then you also consider the fact that Adrian Peterson was coming into a situation where they already had Mark Ingram, and the Saints went out and drafted another running back anyway. So this whole running back by committee thing in New Orleans is kind of confusing, and that's going to end up being a huge storyline in New Orleans. Not just the defense, not just the fact that Drew Brees is playing on another crappy team in NOLA, but the fact that Adrian Peterson, his career is wasting away in a running back graveyard, and his carries are going to be monitored going forward. 6 for a future first ballot Hall of Famer in AP in his first game against his former team in their own building. I understand why he's mad.
Yeah, that was a weird signing to me. The Saints backfield was always just a huge question mark. They always are running in a bunch of different guys trying to go fast pace. A lot of passes out of the backfield from Drew Brees, but it wasn't a good fit. Adrian Peterson is a grinding guy. Give him the ball again and again and again in the fourth quarter, and he'll close a game for you. That's not really the way the Saints go. Also, they're going to be playing from behind a ton. As I said, that aforementioned awful defense. So it really wasn't a great fit, and it's crazy to think they might reduce this Hall of Famer, who's third all-time in yards per game, to a goal line guy, and they didn't even do that. They brought him in on the goal line once. Some very questionable red zone decisions, I think, in week one for the Saints. They brought him in once, and it was as a decoy, essentially, because they know that Sean Payton knew that all those Vikings teammates would refuse to let Peterson get in the end zone that day. They wanted nothing to do with Adrian Peterson showing them up in his first game back in Minnesota, and they darn well proved it. We got to get moving here, Julian. Next up, we have the NFC East, and this is a very interesting division, I think. I want to hear your thoughts.
Absolutely. It's every year, year in, year out, the NFC East. I don't know if it's just because in my situation, living on the East Coast, seeing all these games year in, year out, I have this bias that the NFC East year in, year out is the most interesting division in football. But I mean, you look at the characters year in, year out. The Dallas Cowboys, obviously known as America's team, once upon a time. I don't know if that's the case now, but still, they naturally get all the attention. The New York Giants with the Super Bowl wins over New England, the Philadelphia Eagles, obviously, and the disaster fire of Dan Snyder running Washington. The NFC East is so captivating. For this year, the Dallas Cowboys, another year where I think they win the division this year. Dak Prescott, him coming in as a rookie, showing poise and working alongside Ezekiel Elliott to send the Cowboys to the playoffs and have that really great game against the Green Bay Packers in round two, even though it was in a losing effort. The Cowboys are going to be good for years to come. That being said, coming into this year, even though Dak Prescott is there and he has that great O-line, they have enough to win the division, but who knows what's going to happen with Ezekiel Elliott? It's probably going to be a situation. Well, actually, no. Ezekiel Elliott will be able to play out the year, but it's a bit of a weird situation there with it. But I think the Cowboys are going to be good enough to win that division. But the surprise, this is another one of my surprise picks, and this is a really big surprise. I think, just because I don't know what the deal is with OBJ, and it's very clear the Giants need Odell Beckham Jr. To succeed if they want to get out of there. But I don't know. There's one team I'm looking at, and I really like them, and I like the strides that have been made with this quarterback, and he looked really good against Washington in week 1. This is going to be a big surprise, and this might upset some people, but I have the Philadelphia Eagles as my second wildcard team over the New York Giants. I think Carson Wentz is going to be another one of those young quarterbacks who makes that stride upward, and I like the weapons he has on offense, including Alshon Jeffrey. Getting him from Chicago, I think that's going to help him out tremendously. And I think the Eagles are going to surprise some people. They're going to be that second wildcard team. I think the Giants take steps back. I don't know they're shells of themselves when they don't have Odell Beckham Jr. in the lineup. And it seems very clear that beyond Odell Beckham Jr., is there anyone on the Giants that really scares you? So when he is healthy and you neutralize him, I don't know if the Giants are really that scary to me, in my view. So I have the Cowboys and the Eagles coming out of the NFC East. That might be a surprise to some people, but I don't know. I don't see the Giants scaring anybody.
It's a surprise to me. Look, I think Carson Wentz is probably one of the more intriguing quarterbacks taken last year, but I don't like young quarterbacks, and clearly you do, going with the Titans and the Bucks and now the Eagles. I don't see any of those teams getting it done this year. I agree with you that A, it's the Cowboys division to lose, and B, I'm not buying the Giants, man. I think last year was a fluke. I don't like Ben McAdoo at all. It amazes me that Eli Manning has won not one but 2 Super Bowls. The guy is not a good quarterback. He's not very good at playing quarterback.
No, he's not. There was rankings earlier. I think the people were saying, I think ESPN had ranked him as a top 10 or quarterback. And I mean, I get it. Fine. He has those 2 Super Bowl rings, but at best, I think he's middle of the pack. I don't get it. This guy, not Peyton Manning, has all these rings over Brady? Really? Really? That just doesn't make any sense to me. But he has those rings. And Nick Wright's brought this up. Especially last year, Eli Manning should be damn thankful that he has Odell Beckham Jr. as a target, because Odell Beckham Jr. is a top player in this league, and he makes things happen for the Giants. And if it wasn't for Odell Beckham Jr., God knows where Eli Manning would be right now, honestly, because I see Giants fans week in, week out, sometimes calling for Eli Manning's head because of his incompetence at quarterback. He's just okay, but just not good enough. But when Odell Beckham Jr. is there, clearly the Giants have enough to win those games. I just think this year that might get exposed, and Ben McAdoo might be running on a short leash. I don't know if he get fired, but I think that incompetence might just take them out. I don't know. I'm not big on the Giants. I'm sorry. I had to tell it to you. I had to.
I'm not. I want nothing to do with them. Congrats on having a great year last year, but this is the Cowboys division to lose, and I don't think the Cowboys are quite as good as a lot of people think. A Super Bowl favorite in the NFC. I'm not I don't think they're quite there, but they're easily the favorite in this division, and I think they get it done. How about the West, Julian? I still have a wild card left. You still have just one division winner. Let's hear it.
Seattle Seahawks are winning that division. That division isn't really great. I want to believe in the Arizona Cardinals this year, but this year more than most, I really don't think I need to this year. I think this year, please, Arizona, trade Larry Fitzgerald. Larry Fitzgerald does not need to be languishing on a Arizona Cardinals team that's going to miss the playoffs and or underachieve. Larry Fitzgerald is a Hall of Fame receiver, one of the more consistent players of the last few years. He deserves to play on a contending team. Trade him somewhere, please. That's my plea to Cardinals management. I know their defense is really good. Bruce Arians, I still think is a good head coach. They just do not have the pieces on offense to make this work for me. The LA Rams, they're a project team. They have a lot of young pieces. Obviously, they're in LA now, sunny LA. They're not ready. The San Francisco 49ers, they're also in the same boat as the Rams. They're another project team. They made some interesting picks this past draft, but they're not ready. So with all these teams kind of underwhelming, the Seattle Seahawks are probably – it's kind of harsh to say, but the Seattle Seahawks pretty much win this division by default. And even them, they still have some issues, especially with their offensive line. They beefed up on defense, but their offensive line didn't look that great against Green Bay. And, they may have some issues going forward, but Seattle clearly is the best team in the NFC West. And if nothing else, they still have the best home advantage in the NFL. So going to play games on the road against Seattle, 9 times out of 10, they're a lock for the Seahawks. So I think the Seahawks are going to win that division.
I agree with you. I think as far as the NFC West goes, that's Seattle out there running the show. Even if they're not the stalwart that they were going back-to-back Super Bowls a couple of years ago, they're still clearly the best team. That offensive line is very worrisome. Wilson's going to be using his legs a lot this year, but no one's topping Seattle in that division. Pete Carroll's got a good system in place. That defense is still top 5 in the league. They're going to get it done. They're going to win the division. Now, beyond that, I'm not so sure, but I do like Seattle. Now, for my second wild card that I still have left, admittedly, I do like Arizona. Not a huge Palmer guy, but I love Bruce Arians, and we saw how good they were a couple of seasons ago. I'm on the defense wins champions kind of defense wins championships train. Fair. I know it's a little cliche, but I do think that's how it gets done. I think that's the more important thing when it's all said and done. At least a couple of years ago was as good as any defense. Now, maybe not quite as much, but with some guys like Patrick Peterson and Tyrann Mathieu, I thought maybe they could recapture some of that magic that they had back in 2015 and get back into the postseason. Still have veterans on the offensive side of the ball, like you said, Larry Fitzgerald. Palmer, not the best quarterback. He's, I think, 37 now. He looked terrible week 1.
Mm-hmm.
But he's a proven vet, and he's been to the playoffs, led a team to the playoffs many times before. That being said, I know we already skipped this division or got to this division, but if I could change my answer just so the record shows, I know I can't, but if I could, I like the team that just beat Arizona in week 1. That's the Detroit Lions. I know, look, Matt Stafford took a lot of heat for being the highest paid player ever in the NFL. Obviously, he's not the best player ever in the NFL. He's not the best quarterback in the league right now. He's not the best quarterback in his division. But Matty Stafford went out there in week 1 and threw a pick 6 to start the game, and then came back, let another fourth quarter comeback, the thing that he is damn good at, threw 4 touchdowns, got the W. Matt Stafford earning his money, good for him. This is a league where if you have a quarterback who's might be good enough to get it done, then you have to lock him down. That's why the Flaccos and the Tannehills get paid, and people don't know why. It's because there are only like 7 or 8 good quarterbacks on the planet, people. And Matthew Stafford's right there. He's on the precipice. He is there. He is like 8 or 9 right now, and he could crack his way in the top 5 by the end of this season. I think he does, and I think the Detroit Lions will snag that second wild card. But had we done this last week, I probably wouldn't have said that.
For a guy like Matthew Stafford, him getting the money he's getting, it didn't bother me that much because I feel there are probably going to be other guys in the league who, when their contracts come up, they're going to look at Matt Stafford's number and say, okay, he's getting paid that much. I'm a way better quarterback than Matthew Stafford. Let's use Aaron Rodgers as an example. They'll find a way to eclipse that number and get paid. So Matthew Stafford is not going to be the highest paid quarterback for too much longer.
It's all timing, right? It's just same thing with Mike Conley. Like everyone's going, Mike Conley. Well, it's all timing. It's how when the cap boomed and when he became a free agent, he won't be the highest paid player for long. It's the same exact thing.
Exactly. Absolutely. But and as much as I do like Matt Stafford as well, I do think he gets kind of a bad rap. The proof is in the pudding. He still has that porous record against teams with a record over 500. At 5-46, by the way, just in case you're wondering.
The past is in the past. That's got nothing to do with
Matt Stafford needs to fix that number. Matt Stafford needs to fix that number.
Nothing he can do about that number right now. Not today.
I mean, it's not going to be fixed in week 1 when everyone's playing at 0-0-0.
Done everything.
That number has to get fixed, my guy.
Everything. But I hear you. That's a good argument against Matthew Stafford. I'm with you on that one. But I think he's turned a corner, or at least he looked the part back on week 1
against the Rams. If this was Matt Stafford doing this against Seattle, Green Bay, a team in the AFC, maybe Pittsburgh, even Kansas City. If he did this against Kansas City, you say, you know what? Matthew Stafford is turning a corner. But yes, it's impressive that he came back and he did it. But, I mean, the team he did it against, not inspiring that much confidence. He needs some better results against some better quality teams, and then we're going to shut up about him making that much money. But, again, it is all about timing.
I wasn't planning on this coming into the episode, but I'm all in now. I'm on the Matty Stafford train.
Oh, my Lord.
He's my number 1 Matt outside of Matty Ice. I'm all in
no.
Stafford.
No.
Wow.
That is slanderous.
For the Lions.
That is slanderous. Matty Ice, even Matt Ryan too?
Even Matt Ryan.
All right, no. You are talking foul, sir. You're talking foul, sir. Shout out to Matt D'Ambrosi. If he's watching this right now, if he comes across this, I am so sorry on behalf of my partner, Jake Lapin, man. Your name is put some respect on Matt D'Ambrosi's name, please, sir. Please.
All right, we got to move on, man. NFC Championship game. Who do you have in it?
I want a repeat of the round 2 epic, which up until the Super Bowl looked as if it was going to be the best game of the entire NFL playoffs. The Cowboys and the Packers. I'd love to see them meet in the NFC Championship game. That could be a really great game to watch. Dak Prescott finding himself in his second year in a championship game after already getting that bye in round 2 in his first year up against a guy in Aaron Rodgers who is a bad man. And you were absolutely right when you were talking about the Packers earlier. It is a Super Bowl or bust year for them. It's no longer sufficient to just win the division.
Yeah, I don't even really have the energy to kind of try and pretend to argue with you. I think this game is going to be Packers-Cowboys without a doubt. I think it's nearly inevitable. Obviously, injuries or somehow some legal court proceedings and ensuing suspensions aside, this is the Packers or the Cowboys conference, one of those two, and I would love to get that rematch. I'm looking very much forward to it come January. All right, we made it. The big game, the Super Bowl. Who you got and who's winning it all? Over who?
So this year, staying true to, after week 1, I think my Super Bowl pick would change. I think it's going to change.
After 1 week?
After that 1 week, yeah. After that 1 week, yeah. Honestly, I still think the Patriots are going to be really good. But I don't know. Maybe something happens and they don't end up going back to that game, and it ends up being the Steelers and the Packers. But staying true to my OG prediction, the Patriots and the Packers would meet in the Super Bowl this year. But I think after week 1, I think it might be the Steelers and the Packers this year.
This doesn't really make for the most interesting show considering we had the same exact picks, but I pick Packers Patriots every single year. I've picked Packers Patriots for at least the past 4 years, if not more than that. And like I said earlier, it's a quarterback-driven league. You like the young Bucks and Mariota and Winston, but in the end, you're with me.
The proven guys get there.
And Aaron Rodgers, the two best in the business. I want to see it, man. We deserve it. As NFL fans, we deserve that matchup. I think this actually could be the year. Every year something happens where we don't get it, whether it's the Seahawks or the Broncos messing things up. But those teams are weaker now. I want to see the Patriots and the Packers, and I want to see Aaron Rodgers put Tom Brady in his place, 40-year-old Brady, move aside, hand off the torch. I'm the best quarterback in the league now. Go retire, hang out with Giselle. This is my show. Aaron Rodgers and the Pack, get it done over the Patriots. That is my prediction.
Yeah, man, we are making this real interesting, man. Aaron Rodgers, being a bad man that he is, we've seen so much magic from him, especially in the NFL playoffs. What a victory it would be to see Aaron Rodgers get a second ring over the greatest quarterback of all time. Imagine Aaron Rodgers, we hype him up so much, and you're right now you can look at his resume, and people could even make the argument that just off pure quarterbacking, Aaron Rodgers is a better quarterback than Tom Brady is. But imagine that argument going one step further with Aaron Rodgers actually beats Tom Brady in the championship game. Yes, overall, in terms of team success and championships, Tom Brady will have Aaron Rodgers beat. But in terms of pure quarterbacking and throwing the ball, and especially in a game situation like this, that's a huge win for Aaron Rodgers lovers. Aaron Rodgers should be a Super Bowl champion over Tom Brady this year. And in a way, imagine all those fans from Atlanta and from the last Super Bowl who were so surprised and were scorned and they felt so upset after seeing the haves beat the have-nots yet again, and especially in the fashion. Even though the Packers are technically a have, I don't know. I like the way they kind of conduct themselves. The fans kind of literally bought the team, and they have all those shares in them. Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers seems like a good guy. Don't talk to his family about that, but he seems all right. I don't know. There's something about the Packers that a lot of people can get behind. So I think people will kind of look at the Packers this year being the Patriots as a way of kind of making up for last year, because the Patriots are the evil empire now. And in some cases, some people are looking at them as the alt-right. But anyway, we'll get away from that. Packers over Patriots.
We never got Kobe LeBron. We never got Bonds, or we never got Shroud Harper. Can we please, just please, we never got Alabama, Oregon. Can we just get this one, please? Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, epic showdown, would guarantee to entertain. I want to see it so bad. More than I even want the Texans to win the Super Bowl. I mean that.
Wow.
And I say that only because of how they looked against the Jaguars on Sunday. I know that I'm not affecting any sort of or placing any kind of jinx on them. It is as bad as it could possibly get, rock bottom 1 week into the season. So that's why I say that. But I really would like to see Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. Let's make it happen.
Let's do it.
All right. Thus ends our NFL preview. Took a little longer than expected, so we're going to breeze through these next few things. We got to get to college football, man. We haven't talked college football. We're going to keep it short and sweet, all right? So first thing I'm going to do is, what was your biggest surprise from the first 2 weeks of college football?
So we already have a Game of the Year candidate in UCLA, Texas A&M. Funny enough, no surprise there, but that's the biggest surprise so far. UCLA 2-0. I mean, their second win over Hawaii, not as big of a surprise, but Josh Rosen announcing himself to the world with that massive comeback victory over Texas A&M. Our boy Gus Johnson called that game too. How awesome was that?
I love Gus.
Oh,
Gus.
Oh my God, Gus Johnson on college athletics they just go hand in hand. Whether it's basketball, even football, he's done a pretty decent job at. Just keep him in the NCAA, and you will get nothing but greatness. Just like what we saw with Josh Rosen throwing that fade up top to win the game. Man, that was just so great to see on the part of UCLA, and I still can't believe that happened. And if you're in Texas A&M right now, they're obviously in full shock. Those boosters and people from their Board of Regents coming for Kevin Sumlin's neck after that epic loss, man. It is some dire straits up in Texas A&M right now. But yeah, that's the biggest surprise so far. I didn't think UCLA being put down as far back as they were in that game had any hopes of coming back, and they did.
Yeah, that was easily the best game of week one, could be the best game of the year. And look, as a UT graduate, I have no issues with A&M losing horrendous fashion. Big fan of that. I will say, though, I've been a lifelong diehard fan. When I say that, I mean I never even heard of them until a couple of weeks ago. The Liberty Flames taking down Baylor in week one in Waco. Oh, my God. What an awful start for Baylor, the Matt Rule era. But how about the Flames getting it done? I'm not talking Calgary. I'm talking Liberty University football. Had never heard of them. Still not sure where they're located, but they took down a Big 12 team. Props to them. The Big 12 has not looked great outside of the state of Oklahoma thus far, but good for them. That's my biggest surprise. On the other hand, now we're going biggest disappointment, and like I said, as a UT graduate, the Tom Herman era did not get off to a good start. It did not. And speaking of Matt D'Ambrosi, boy, am I glad I did not bet against him on our home state universities, because Maryland came in and beat down Texas at home, and it was the same old lack of discipline, special teams mistakes, blocked field goal return for a touchdown. It was bad. It was bad. And I was at a bar here in New York that is Texas themed. I mean, packed, full house Texas fans. And it was quiet. Quiet.
Woof. So for biggest disappointment, before I get to that really quickly, you talk about Baylor having a terrible start. It seems like it was a terrible start all the way around for their current coach, their former head coach, Mark Riles, not getting that job at Hamilton. So I have to mention that. I have to pass through that. But biggest disappointment for me, I'm going to say Urban Meyer and Ohio State at a 1-1 record. Yeah, they got that win over Indiana, but it wasn't necessarily the easiest of wins. You know, there's some wins, you know, as a big top team in college football, you should just get out the way and just get those wins in. And yeah, they ended up making the deficit a little wider than it probably should have been, but it didn't need to be that hard against Indiana. And then you lose to Oklahoma, and Baker Mayfield is putting the flag on your O. Man, that is just heavy stuff. There's still enough time for Ohio State to, you know, win some games, put themselves in the conversation for getting themselves into a title race. But I have to say, at a 1-1 start right now, I'm kind of feeling a little shaky about Ohio State. I'd certainly be a little disappointed in their efforts.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer, especially after Urban Meyer went on record just trashing his former assistant coach, Tom Herman, for losing to Maryland and making excuses. Then to go out and get embarrassed to a team that Texas will play later on the year should be interesting. Don't have the highest of hopes for that one, but nonetheless, could be interesting. Could be interesting.
Absolutely.
Okay. Biggest surprise, biggest disappointment, check. Your prediction for the 4 playoff teams. Again, I know we know more now. You know what? Screw that. Let's just say right now, who are your 4 playoff teams, knowing all that you know?
Knowing all that I know right now, Alabama's going to be there because they're the 33rd NFL team.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold is going to bring USC there. That is kind of it. But I also think that Louisville
play Texas this weekend, right?
Ooh, that's going to be tough. Texas had a decent start, too.
If they miss the playoffs, this weekend will not be why. I assure you of that. Continue.
You know what? I like Louisville this year. I think they're going to have a decent schedule, and I think they're going to come out and they're going to end up being that team. Uh, and this is going to be another, I guess, kind of surprise, or maybe not, because they were actually pretty good, and they were probably not probably, but they have arguments to feel they were probably taken out of that Final Four last year, and they've started off pretty well as well. I'll have Penn State as my fourth team. They've started off pretty well. But yeah, I have a pretty surprising top four. But right now, knowing what I know, these things change every week. Alabama, USC, Louisville, and Penn State are my four teams.
I think Louisville's an interesting pick. I'm not sure they can go the distance, so Alabama's in.
Yeah, that's it.
It's a foregone conclusion
Gimme.
as long as Nick Saban is there. Unless catastrophe strikes, I'm going Bama for sure. You got to give Oklahoma some credit, man. Look, they just marched into Ohio State, who's supposed to be also a foregone conclusion, and they whooped them on their home field. Give the Sooners some credit. I hate the Sooners more than anybody, but you got to give them some credit.
That's fair.
That being said, I do think it could come down to the winner of Oklahoma versus Oklahoma State. Could be interesting if Mike Gundy's boys get their job done. I love Dabo, but for the time being, I'm going to leave Clemson out just because they lost a guy like Deshaun Watson. But I wouldn't be surprised if they're in the mix, and they will get the advantage of votes considering they are the defending champions after all. I like Michigan, man. I know they lost a lot of players, but I'm a huge Harbaugh believer. And they were this close last year. That fourth down was very questionable versus Ohio State.
Absolutely.
They get that call goes their way. They're in the playoff, and who knows what happens after that. I mean, Ohio State should know more than anybody about getting in the playoffs when they don't think they deserve it, and then proving that they belong by winning it all. That could have been Michigan last year. So I'm going to take Michigan as kind of my surprising pick. So I like Michigan. I did like Florida State. Losing to Bama shouldn't hurt your chances, but losing your quarterback does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Loss. It's weird picking an 0-1 team to make the playoff, but losing to Bama is probably the best 0-1 a team has ever been in the history of college football. But I don't know if they can get over losing their quarterback. So I have Alabama, winner of Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Michigan, and probably Clemson by default. But I will think there's another team that could belong in there over them, possibly a USC. Penn State, like you said, can't rule them out either. So we'll have to see. I know I kind of cheated, but I listed 5 teams, so it's good enough, right? Good enough.
Yeah, it's fine. I'll allow it. Works in the NCAA.
What's that?
I said cheated. You know what? Forget it. Never mind what I said. It's fine. If you heard it, you heard it. If you didn't,
Any early Heisman favorites after weeks 1 and 2 for you?
You brought up the issue of media not liking to repeat.
I did.
But I can't see any other reason why Lamar Jackson shouldn't get. And that hasn't happened. But Lamar Jackson, in my mind, is the front runner for another Heisman Trophy this year. Balled out against North Carolina over the weekend. And this kid at this level, he's improving almost every week with throwing the ball downfield and getting his accuracy. And he's such a dynamic player running the football. Man, this dual threat, this kid, so good. It's such a young age. I really hope, beyond college football, he has some kind of career. But I don't know. Baker Mayfield probably is going to be in that conversation as well. Sam Darnold, I expect to be in that conversation as well. Josh Rosen as well. But they're not nearly as exciting as Lamar Jackson is.
I wish I had a more exciting or bold answer, but I'm going with Sam Darnold. The guy is a stud, absolute stud. Going to be the top pick next year. Future Jets quarterback. Slow start again, but since the second half of that game, he's been money. They just completely turned the lights out on Stanford. I'm going to see him live this weekend in LA. Turn the lights off on Texas, and I'm looking forward to it because he's a stud, and I'm going to be able to say, wow, I saw him in college. Let's move on. MLB, some big news going on. I know we've been talking a lot of football, but we can't ignore two teams right now. First one being the Indians. They won their 21st game in a row today. That's an American League record, tied the Chicago Cubs of 1916. Now only trail the 1906 Giants, so it's the best
1916 Giants.
over 100 years. How about those Indians? On the flip side, Julian, a team that we proclaimed to be unbeatable a mere few weeks ago. The Dodgers lost 11 in a row, 15 of 16. They broke the streak last night with a win over the lowly San Francisco Giants. Which is more captivating to you, the Indians win streak or the Dodgers lose streak?
It's Cleveland's win streak for me. I know they had a 14-game winning streak last year, but this winning streak is bordering on history now. And I mean, to have these win streaks a year apart is extremely impressive to me. Their run differential during that time has been outstanding. And Jake, want to take a guess at how many innings Cleveland has trailed throughout this entire win streak?
I know for a fact. Do you want me to reveal it, or should I let you break the crazy stat?
It's 4.
Yep.
Dude, that is insane. Game in, game out. 4 innings they've trailed this entire win streak.
Out of 189.
That is ridiculous. There are people saying, I mean, you can make the argument that what they're accomplishing right now, is harder than winning a World Series.
Absolutely. Someone wins a World Series every year.
Yeah, exactly.
This since 1916.
It's ridiculous. This is extremely impressive to me. I mean, the Los Angeles Dodgers kind of falling off after their torrid pace to start the year. Maybe I didn't expect it to be as bad as it was, but I mean, I kind of saw them falling off. Cleveland getting yet another win streak, surpassing the one from last year. You got to give it up to them, man. That's way more impressive to me.
When Oakland won 20 games in a row in 2002, Brad Pitt played Billy Beane when they made the movie Moneyball. Now I'm wondering, who do you like playing the part for Terry Francona? I got my money on Channing Tatum.
Channing Tatum's kind of a silly guy, and he could probably pull that off. In a facial way, I don't know if I see that face. I think he's too good looking to be Terry Francona.
He's a great Tito. Oh, what are you talking about? If anything, he's not as good looking as Tito.
He's too good looking to be Tito. and no disrespect, Tito, he's a great manager. He's just not a good looker, man. I don't know.
There are a number of incredible stats that go behind this Indians win streak, but I'm going to play devil's advocate here, Julian. The Indians are a good team. They were in the World Series last year. Look, I know teams don't win 21 in a row hardly ever.
No.
That is hard to do. You're bound to drop a game once or twice. The best teams in baseball win about 66% of their games. They don't win every game. That's essentially what Cleveland's done for over 3 weeks now. But the Dodgers were already pegged as the World Series winners a few weeks ago. They're the first team ever to lose as many as 4 games in a row when being 50 games over 500. They're the first team ever to win 15 of 16 and then lose 15 of 16. And while the Indians have won 21 games in a row, the Dodgers won 45 out of 54, which is the best stretch ever also in over 100 years, 105 years as opposed to 101 like the Indians. They have them by 4 years. I think what the Indians are doing is absolutely spectacular and also makes me very angry because they have now since passed up the Houston Astros for best record in the American League. What the Dodgers are doing to go from so good to so bad is far more intriguing, at least from my viewpoint. I think that's just, if you had to pick, hey, like let's say 3 weeks ago, I was like, hey, what do you think is more likely? The Indians rip off 20 in a row or the Dodgers lose like 11 in a row?
Okay,
You'd
fair.
say the Indians. You'd say the Indians because the Dodgers were unstoppable. The Indians were pretty darn good. That's
fair.
why I think the Dodgers are more interesting. Obviously, the Indians is far more impressive because they're on the good side of history. But, I mean, the Dodgers have lost 15 of 16, and it had absolutely zero impact on the standings. And their division has both of the wild card teams. I mean, that's just mind-blowing. The fact that they could do that and not even worry in the slightest about a division that has 2 other playoff teams in it. That's unbelievable to me.
That's fair. That's fair. No, I still think Cleveland is just so impressive with how they've beaten all these teams and with all the runs they put up in that span. But you are entitled to an opinion, Mr. Latham.
Okay. First things first. Are the Indians?
Great show, by the way.
Thank you. Are the Indians now the favorite in the AL to win the pennant?
Yes. They've proven to be, a team that could return to the World Series on the AL side. That being said, I don't know if they necessarily clear. All these. Houston, they're still there. I hype them a lot throughout our shows, and I still think they could probably give somebody a scare. One team you don't want to go against at all in these playoffs. Is very likely it'll be in the ALCS. Boston. Cleveland, I think they're going to have a tough series in the LCS against the Boston Red Sox. And if there's one team that could knock them off, it's them. I think Cleveland is the favorite, but you look at Boston and they give you nightmares. I'm sure Terry Francona can tell you all about Boston.
I'm not a big believer in Boston right now. I'm really not. I think Cleveland, especially if they hold on to this best record, they're a shoo-in for the World Series. Playoffs are all about pitching, right? Look at the Mets in 2015, man. I bet you couldn't name their starting lineup. But they had Syndergaard, they had DeGrom, and they had Harvey, three-headed monster. It is all about pitching in the playoffs. And Cleveland's got it. And they have it way better than Boston. They have it way better, or at least substantially better than Houston or New York or Minnesota, LA, so on. Cleveland's getting to the World Series. If I had to place money on it right now, I'd place a lot. Cleveland is winning the American League. They got hot at the right time. I know there's still a few weeks left, but man, the Astros being red hot back in May seems like forever ago. And this is very much current in the final stretch last month of the season. They are putting it all together at the right time. Pitching is unmatched, and their offense is pretty damn good, too. Cleveland Indians are winning the American League. What about the Dodgers, Julian? Are they still the favorite to make the World Series from the National League side?
I'm starting to see people turn on those opinions of the Dodgers being that team to come out. They're that team that's just too big to fail. They're miles ahead of everybody else. But what if that momentum around now is enough to sink them going into the postseason? We already know about Clayton. I know he had a decent one last year, but he's been kind of up and down in the postseason. What if the Dodgers achieve in the postseason again? Oh, man. Tough. I think they are still the favorite, and I think they will come out and still be that team. But the only other team that could keep giving them a challenge, in my mind, because I like their playoff success, is actually the Chicago Cubs. I've seen people leap and say, you know what? This is the year the Washington Nationals get it together. I'm still not convinced. I like the Chicago Cubs as the foil to the LA Dodgers. The Dodgers are still the favorite for me coming out of the NL.
National League's a lot tougher than the American League right now.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure we said that a few weeks ago, but here we are. I don't like what I'm seeing from the Dodgers. They were winning without Kershaw and Darvish, and now they're both back, and they're losing a lot. They are bleeding, and they can't stop. Other teams, the Nationals, they've got the division locked up. They are chilling right now. And I know the Dodgers have no standings emergency to tend to, but they're starting to question themselves. They're shook. You look at what they're saying in those post games Justin Turner said the other day, doesn't matter what we've done. We're terrible right now. We're the worst team in baseball. And he's right. That's bad. It sounds like the Dodgers locker room is starting to freak out, starting to question themselves. And that's why I think either the defending champions or maybe finally the Washington Nationals can probably bounce them in the playoffs. I don't think the Dodgers will be in the World Series.
Okay, I still think if they're not going to be in the World Series, the Cubs are going to do it. I'm still not convinced Washington is going to be that team. But hey, you know what? I could be proven wrong, or maybe there's some kind of weird Montreal Expo fandom inside of me that just doesn't want to see the Nationals win. I don't know.
Fair enough. All right, Julian, we are way past time, but I know we hadn't done it in a couple weeks, so we're going to do something new. We're going to do big deal or no deal, but I am talking rapid fire, 140 characters or less. You get to say if it's a big deal or no deal, and you get one sentence explaining why. Deal?
Deal.
All right, here we go. Starting with USC versus Texas. Like I said, I'll be there this weekend. Interesting thing on the game notes, USC claiming they are 4-0 all-time against Texas. Their loss in the 2005 National Championship versus Vince Young never happened because all of their wins from that year were vacated. Do you think this is a big deal or no deal?
No big deal. Vince Young run into end zone. We saw what happened.
Okay,
no big deal.
I mess up your grammar. Just needed a quick answer. That's all.
That's fair. That's fair. I don't know. You set to keep it 140 characters in Twitter. I had to bring out the phone and try to make this, like a tweet thing. And it's the internet. No one cares about grammar there.
This is a big freaking deal in my mind. Vince Young went off on you guys. Greatest game arguably ever in college football history. Don't pretend like it never happened. Hook 'em fucking horns, Vince Young on your ass. Moving on.
Ooh, wow. We got some cussing on the Faceoff podcast.
Carmelo Anthony, Julian, number 64. I had 40, and I got criticized. They have him at number 64, one ahead of Marcus Smart, one behind rookie Lonzo Ball. Big deal or no deal?
This is a big deal. Not just because of the fact that they ranked him at 64, because, we think of all these teams that he's been rumored to go to. He'd probably be a number 3 guy in Houston, even Portland, Cleveland definitely. So, yeah, I'm not surprised he's ranked, 60. And I know Sports Illustrated kind of softened the blow and made him a little higher. But, damn, one behind Lonzo Ball. He hasn't played an actual NBA game yet. That's disrespectful. Come on, man. I don't think down that far. That's not to say Lonzo Ball's not going to be a good kid, but damn, come on, show some respect for Carmelo. I know they wouldn't do this to Hoodie Melo. Hoodie Melo would at least be 40.
Yeah, Hoodie Melo is easily top 10. I think this is a big deal, and I'll tell you why. It's because ESPN needs some original material. They can't copy me. I'm the guy who exaggerates how overrated Carmelo Anthony is. Not you. You stole that from me. That's my thing. I should sue ESPN. Moving on. Back to the Dodgers. Since they swept Arizona back over July 4th weekend, they are now just 2-7 versus the Diamondbacks since. That's looking like it could be that first round matchup in the NLDS. Is this a big deal or no deal?
That's a big deal, obviously. You were talking about how the Dodgers are shook, for how they've been in this losing streak, in Arizona having their number. That's got to creep into the back of their mind. And if they end up using a guy like Zach Greinke throughout that series, or either in the wild card game or they save him for a series, that's also going to play in the back of your mind. Greinke obviously played in LA. He knows a thing or two about that team. That is a big deal if you're the Los Angeles Dodgers. Do I think they're going to lose that potential one-game playoff or a series against the Diamondbacks? I'm not so sure. That's definitely a big deal in the mind of the LA Dodgers.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you have 90 wins or 100 or 110. You can't beat that team in front of you in the NLDS. All of your regular season accomplishments are meaningless. That's a big deal. Let's move on. Kobe Bryant getting not one but 2 numbers retired, both 8 and 24. How do you feel about this?
If there's one guy who deserves that honor of having both his numbers retired, it's Kobe Bryant, because Kobe Bryant was an outstanding star when he wore the number 8 and won all those titles with Shaq. And then when he reinvented himself as the Black Mamba wearing number 24, just as lethal. Yes, fading in. Yes, in the twilight of his career, he kind of faded and he started chucking up more misses than actual makes. But man, number 24, I have just as many memories of him wearing that number than I did at 8. So great on the part of the Los Angeles Lakers for retiring both numbers. Imagine if they had only picked one number and they left the other one just there. There'd be outrage in the streets. This is the absolute perfect move on the part of the Los Angeles Lakers. What a great job. Big deal.
You got to pick one. Just pick one.
No.
Come on.
Come on.
When a guy goes into Hall of Fame, he doesn't wear 3 hats. You got to pick one.
Yeah, well, I mean, in the case of Kobe Bryant, when he eventually makes it in the Hall of Fame, I mean, then again, they don't really do this, but I mean, we don't have to worry about him wearing multiple jerseys. But if there's one guy who deserves that honor, it is Kobe Bryant, not Michael Jordan, who wore the 2-3 and then the 4-5 just to play games with you. Probably made, the Jay-Z line and all that. Michael Jordan doesn't even deserve that. Kobe Bryant does. You got to give him respect.
I disagree. I don't give him that respect. Moving on, because we are so out of time here. Last one, the NFL Pro Football Hall of Fame nominated Steve Smith, wide receiver, as a finalist. But it was the wrong Steve Smith, Julian. Is this a big deal or no deal?
This is so incompetent. Well, then again, apparently it was a fan vote thing. I'm still trying to understand how that happened. This shouldn't be a big deal because it'll write itself in the end. We're not going to see the wrong Steve Smith make the Hall of Fame, are we? Right. We're not going to see him in the Hall of Fame, right? So it shouldn't be a big deal. That being said, come on, dude. Seriously? Steve Smith from the Giants? Come on. No.
First of all, Steve Smith won a Super Bowl with the Giants.
So David Tyree, where's his place?
I remember back in the day when fantasy drafts, before they were online, someone ended up with the wrong Steve Smith on their team, and they were pissed. And that was a stupid fantasy league. This is the Hall of Fame. Get it right. That's embarrassing.
That's absolutely.
That's just, and yet it's probably not even in the top 10 most embarrassing things in the NFL, probably even this week. But anyway, that's embarrassing. They got to get that right. Julian, great to be back, man. We missed you the last couple weeks. We went overboard this week, but it was good. We got a lot of material in. Glad we did it, buddy.
This is my favorite episode so far, honestly, because we covered so much ground, and I think the way we went over all the topics were great, and we got over some good stuff, man. And I got to hear Jake Lapin swear live on air. So damn well this was a fantastic episode. Miss doing these with you, buddy. Next week, man. Let's get it going, man.
If someone at USC tries any of that shit again, I'll be swearing all weekend. I promise you that. All right. MLB is in the home stretch. NFL is here. College football is here. NBA training camps are opening up in the next couple weeks. It's a busy time for sports podcasters. I'm looking forward to it, buddy. Great seeing you.
NHL training camps are opening up, too. We don't have to see too many more of television crews showing up to golf tournaments and putting up 4 blocks on TV, saying, oh, this player said this player said this player's not going to be ready for training camp. Let's get to the training camp. Let's get to the regular season. Let's get this thing going on, man. October's going to be rocking, man. Let's get it.
Looking forward to it. At Jake Lapin _MLB, at JK McKenzie. Did I get that right?
JK McKenzie. You have to make sure you get the second initial from my second middle name.
There you go. Guys, we're on YouTube, iTunes, Mixcloud. Look out for us. We'll be here. Thanks for listening. See you next time.